In the midst of this global crisis, the voices for justice are revealing what really matters. It is time for Planetary Makeover. Here we feature solutions and modern miracles in documentary videos that offer hope for our future and remind us all of our spiritual source. Long ago, it was forecast that at this time in history, extraordinary teachers, including the world teacher, would emerge to help us as we build a world that works for everyone. Now, here's your host of Planetary Makeover, Mr. Dick Larson.
Welcome to Planetary Makeover. My name is Dick Larson. I'm your host, and I'm happy to be here with you. We're here with you every other Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and we're here to show a video and talk about some hope in the world. And today, we're going to show a video called Modern Miracles. I think you guys are going to love it. And we'll try to lift your spirits a little bit in this difficult time. By way of introduction, we show videos mostly from Frances Oman. Frances Oman is, if you didn't read her bio on our website, she has made a lot of documentary videos. She's been acknowledged with international honors for some of her documentaries. She was trained as an investigative reporter, and she's also an artist. As I said, I'm Dick Larson, and my background is in business and counseling and practical spirituality. Spirituality that how do we apply it to our everyday lives to help ourselves and others in this world? So I certainly don't have all the answers, and neither do you, but maybe together we can get some sense of how to survive these difficult times. So we're going to show a video today. It's of my interview with a man named Buddy Piper, who was known as the Modern Miracles Reporter. And this video was made several years ago, but all the miracles that are talked about and many, many more unexplained events that modern people call miracles are still happening. So here we go. We're going to watch Modern Miracles.
Hello, I'm Dick Larson, and I invite you to join us for what I think will be a fascinating conversation. I'm here with an old friend, Buddy Piper, and Buddy has become known as the Modern Miracles Reporter.
Hi, Dick. It's good to be here.
Buddy, I don't know if you saw it, but there was an article in Time magazine about miracles.
About miracles, right.
And one of the quotes was, "The past few years have been an age of miracles. Unimaginable events have succeeded one another as if the Creator had whistled up a new world." I think that's a beautiful quote.
I'll tell you, not only in the past few years, since 1988, they've been coming in rapid succession.
Well, you've been investigating these exceptional events, Buddy, that you say are miracles.
Yes.
And you've told me about a few of them, and they do sound amazing.
Well, the amazing thing about them to me, Dick, is the information I've come across means they're all connected. I started, when I was about 6 years old, 7 years old, out on the plains of Kansas.
You were in Kansas, right?
Kansas.
Yeah,
I'm a
okay.
Kansan, and spent most of my life in New York and L.A., but I was out on the plains of Kansas, and I recognized there's something wrong with our world, even when I was 6 or 7 years of age. I recognized that there's tremendous hunger in the world at that time, and yet I knew that as the trucks went by the elevators and the wheat was piled high, that there was a lot of food around that's not being distributed, and I could never figure out what that was about. So I kept watching that, and as I grew up, I began to see we even pay farmers not to grow food in our country with the starvation in the world. Then I got grown up, and it really hit me because I discovered that just today, right now, 35,000 children will die of hunger in the world today, and we actually have a 10% surplus of food in the world. That set me off in my mind. If I ever got financially able, I was going to turn away from what I was doing and see if I could find some hope for the future about this world hunger problem.
Yes. And you did.
I did.
Where did you find it?
Well, you know, it's hard to, there are 4 visible miracles in the world I can show anybody. I talk about a lot of them I can't prove, but I can prove there are 4. One of them I call a magazine I ran into called Share International.
Okay.
I didn't know what it was. I read through one once and no ads in it, and then it said a little nonprofit thing published in Holland, and didn't quite know what it was. I like the word share because I grew up in a family where we always shared, you know. And but in this magazine, it indicated that this magazine was being forwarded to the world leaders. To as many as we could get to them, they said, and also to the press, because the press doesn't always follow up the happenings in the world. They follow up what we'd like to watch because we're looking for ratings quite often.
Sure.
So this fascinating magazine mentions several miracles were going to happen, and I followed them, and they all did happen. And then it said in 1988, a great series of miracles will start coming as signs to the people of the great hope for the future. And I'll quickly, if I may, tell you the 4 great things that I am so excited about.
Sure.
One of them is eventually the children of the world will be born and will be absolutely guaranteed as a universal right food from the time they're born until they die as a human right. A little shelter, going to be guaranteed that, going to be guaranteed health care, and they're going to be guaranteed an education along the lines of their talents. Now, I come from a background of performers and actors and people in the, and we know what the artists go through to try to survive. And the information comes out that even if you're a poet, you may make a living in the future. To me, that's great hope.
Well, you know, buddy, you were talking about those 4 things, and maybe with the exception of education, that's what I give my dog.
Absolutely, what all
and the children of the world don't
caring people do, their dogs and cats.
Now, you gave me a short list of miracles, buddy.
Yeah.
And I took a look at it, and we talked a little bit about it. Yeah. And let's start with the one called the miracle of the healing waters. Now, is that one miracle, or?
Well, that to me, see, that's the health care for the world that's guaranteed for the future.
Okay.
According to the information, there's a great group of beings, a lot of people would call them angels, and if you notice, if you look at all the polls, around 80-some% of the people in the United States believe they have had some kind of a contact with what they call an angel. Well, just leave it there. It's certainly a highly developed being, and they will say to you right openly, and they do on polls now, that they've had contact. Our listeners right now, most of them have had contact.
I think they have. I think they have, and I think that it seems like it doesn't make any difference what country you're from, or what culture you're from, or whether you're religious or not religious.
Right.
You know, I think most of our viewers have probably had what they would consider to be a miracle in their life.
Right. So the healing waters fascinate me because if you want to talk about drama, and this group of miracles that were predicted in 1988 said they will come up around the world, a great group of wells of water that you can drink and will be very healing. The first one that came up, this was mentioned in 1988, was in 1992, down in a little tiny town, little village called Tlacote, Tlacote, Mexico. Now, any Spanish-speaking person listening to me, I know right now I'm mispronouncing that. I came from Kansas. Hard for me to say anything more than Smith and Brown, but I try. But Tlacote is about 250 miles northeast of Mexico City, and there's a multimillionaire owns this property. And when you have everything, what you start doing is looking at things that really matter, which is human beings, dogs, cats, people.
Right.
He was watching his old dog one day.
I was going to ask you, how did he find this?
Yeah.
How did he find this?
Yeah. Well, the old dog was about to die. And he wandered up to this little spring that popped up on the Mr. Shaheen, I think's the man's name, property. And the dog licked this up, and the next day he came back and he licked it again. He was feeling more lively. And within about a week, he was jumping around like a teenager dog, if there is such a thing. And my dogs were always teenagers. And the fellow said, "What could this be?" He said to his farm hands, most of them didn't have health insurance like we have. We just take it for granted. He said, "Those of you who need to go to the doctor, why don't you drink out of that little new well over there, a stream that's popped up." And they started doing it, and the people started getting well. He went to the Mexican government. He said, "Would you help me? I want to put up about $30 million worth of tanks here to store the water so all the people who want to can come and get this water free." And the government at that time wasn't interested. It said, "Let me take it to the hospitals and give it to the people." Go ahead. People started getting well. The government did back him along with his money.
They have documented files on all this, right? On the healing?
Their doctors have documented literally hundreds of thousands of healings since then.
Yeah.
And I suppose you read that CNN covered it, CBS News covered the story on this, exactly what I'm telling you.
Right.
And the Washington Post, Dallas Morning News. This is not just something I'm telling you. This is happening.
You know, before we go any further, I want to remind our viewers that at the end of the show, we'll put a phone number on the screen that you can call to, I guess, get more information, buddy, on the miracles.
Well, there's a little group who's gotten together who send out free mailing list on the miracles that are happening, why they believe they're happening.
And what's happening in the world.
Yeah, what's happening in the world to change,
Okay.
because the world's in the midst of a major shift. We're not quite aware of it yet, but we're going.
You know, I saw one on TV down in Florida.
What'd you see?
That Seminole Finance building, I think it was, the 35-foot tall image of the Madonna in color, Technicolor.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah, over 1 million
That was
people
on the
have come to
news.
see that. If you listen to the debunkers, they'll say, well, that was just an oil spot there. Hard to tell that to the millions of people.
Yeah, I don't see how that could be. You know, they said on the news that cars were lined up for 8 miles in every direction, people trying to get there.
And the real amazing thing, there's a multi-million-dollar building. The man that owns that says, hey, wait, that's not just an oil spot. He said, I'm so certain that the life force, he calls it God, has a great hand in this, that I'm going to empty my building and make this a shrine for people to come here, be comfortable, and take a look at this.
Isn't that wonderful?
I hope that's what he does.
You know, the parking lot was crowded with people with candles when I saw it, with candles and crosses, and they said that you would think there would be lots of chaos and noise going on. They said it was a real, like, holy feeling, very quiet, very orderly, that people just instinctively knew that something was going on there.
Yes.
You know?
Well,
I just thought it was great.
Yeah, the information I get, believe it or not, is that's a person manifesting a fact that are great teachers in the world. I don't know if that's true, but that's the way it seems. So that's the one that happened down in Clearwater, Florida.
Right. And then you mentioned one about Hindu statues drinking milk.
Oh, did you see that on hard copy?
Yeah. Was it hard copy? I knew I saw it. I didn't know what I saw.
Hard copy. Well, it's on a lot of shows.
Yeah.
It's on 4-Day Miracle around the world. Every Hindu in the world right now has no doubt that there's a great change in the process to the poor man who was awakened from his sleep and said, go take a little teaspoon of milk, hold it up to that little statue. I think it's Ganesh. I don't know how to pronounce it, but
I don't know.
But he did, and the milk disappeared as he held it up to the trunk of the statue. Well, it flashed around the world, and of course, I live in Los Angeles, and I immediately rushed over to a little Hindu temple, a little tiny storefront place, took some milk, went in there, held it up, and the milk disappeared. And I couldn't believe what I saw. But when it came on hard copy, maybe you saw
I saw it.
Thousands of people lined up in real fur coats to the street people with their little milk, giving it to the statue, and it disappeared.
That happened in London?
Yes.
And someplace else?
Well, all over the world,
Was
but
it?
that's what was picked up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and some of those statues were stone and bronze or brass or something.
Brass,
so it couldn't have
copper.
absorbed it.
No,
So
it didn't absorb it.
it's really quite amazing.
It was a sign to the poor persons who are Hindus that a great soul has descended on earth and there's hope for the poor of the world in the future. What a great, I love this idea of hope. So that was that one.
I want to talk about one more.
Which one?
That you mentioned and that the crosses of light. Apparently they appear in windows, these crosses?
Well, I had not seen any of them any place except in windows. In 1988, they said they were going to manifest the crosses of light, the healing waters.
You say they. Who's they?
Well, those are the angels I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'll leave it at angels because we all understand that term. They're highly developed beings, no doubt about that. to bring up these things as they talk about them. That's what fascinated me about
In Share International.
Share. That's
Okay.
when I saw that, I had followed what they had said. Everything had happened that they said, and these things I waited for them to happen, and they've
Yes.
all started happening.
Okay.
So these crosses of light are fascinating, especially to this area, LA. They're all around the world.
them here.
We're not exclusive, but they're all around the world. In LA alone, in the next few minutes, if I may, I'd like to tell you places that people, if they will make that call on that number,
Yes.
we'll tell them how to go see these crosses. It started in El Monte, right in 1988, shortly after it was published by Share International. They were going to appear. There they came into El Monte with a great sense of humor. I've been told that these angels or enlightened beings have a tremendous sense of humor. Life is to be lived joyfully.
Okay.
And so what did they do? I expected the crosses to be in some magnificent cathedral or something. They came in the bathroom window of a little guy down in El Monte, California. Everyone around here knows where El Monte is. And a kid or somebody outside was looking in the window and said, "Dad, hey, there's a cross in that room." He said he was inside, he didn't see it. "I didn't know cross in here." He said, "Come out and take a look." He looked in the window. Beautiful 4-foot square cross of light. And everybody started calling everybody. Before nightfall, 3,500 people had lined up, blocked the traffic looking in this guy's bathroom window. So that was the first one. Incidentally, that cross is still there. There are several of them down that area, and there's all over LA, really. We'll give you about 5 or 6 names of places.
Okay.
And the people down there say the neighborhoods have changed towards good from the influence of that cross, which has a very healing effect when you see
Isn't
it.
that something?
It's a square cross. It's not a typical, what's so-called Christian cross. It's
Yes.
a square cross. That means it's a symbol for everybody, believers or non-believers
An
alike.
even armed cross.
Yeah.
Now there's one in the church, Knoxville, I think.
That one surprised me because I'd never heard of one in the church. That doesn't mean I know where all of them are.
Right.
They're around the
but
world.
Most of them are in homes, I think, aren't they?
Well, the most in homes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But that one came in. I saw this wonderful man on the television. His name is Reverend Joe Bullard. He's a wonderful Southern big fellow minister who says, "I don't know, but it looks like a miracle to me," he said. And I couldn't wait till morning to call him and say, "Hey, would you like to know why I think those are there?" "Why, yes." And I said, "I don't want to get into your belief system, but they're there because something about you drew them there, for one thing, because
Well,
they
you
knew
think
you'd
so?
show them to the world."
Okay.
Everybody gets them, shows them to the world, if they can.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the second thing is, maybe you're in a strategic area to awaken people to the fact that there's a lot of good coming, and there's a lot of despair around the United States. So anyway, I went to see them. And I drove up into that parking lot, and as I drove up, I expected to see he said they're kind of big, and I'd never seen them over 4 feet square.
Right.
I drove up in the parking lot, there was nothing there, and I was disappointed. I went inside, and I started looking out the window. He said, "You got to look out the window," but he said, "Hey, it's daytime, you put on your sunglasses." He had a big box of sunglasses. I said, I thought Knoxville went to California to wear sunglasses. He said, No. He said, "We wear them here to see this cross. 40 feet square, blind you if you looked at it directly. 40 feet square, hanging 30 yards out from the church, starting from the parking lot, going up in the air. You can't see it from outside." And he said, "At night it's golden." So I stayed at night and saw it was beautiful. There's this lady you see on the film here. She's a lady who went down there, was drawn down from about 400 miles away, didn't even know the crosses were there, went to see them. She had been working with 9 doctors. She had a brain tumor. And she just was so exhausted, and she felt she had to go down to visit a friend of hers in Knoxville. That's the lady on there that you saw talking with the man, Mick Brown, who's a journalist from London who came over to cover her story, because the brain tumor went away, and nobody can explain it. She says the crosses healed her. Maybe she's right.
So they took that footage.
Yes, she did that. You notice on that number that was on there, March, I think it's October 26, 1996. That was 5 months after she felt she had a healing. So she was proud of that. She got that number on. She shot everything that and said, "Here's some film," so we showed some of it.
Now you said there was a cross also in Torrance?
Yes, Torrance. There's a wonderful fella named Mohammed, and he has a wife named Clarita, and their little boy was dying. The doctor said he's going to die, or he's certainly in terrible shape. And they said, so this little group that puts out this information I tell you about said, "Well, there's a little healing list. Maybe he should go on there. Would you like him on there?" He said, "Yes." Within about a week, the boy started getting better. The boy is now several years old. He's fine. And right after the boy got well, the doctor says, "I don't know what happened, but he's well." one of these crosses I'm talking about popped into this little home down in Torrance. It's still there, and it probably could be visited if you wanted to.
Wow. Brentwood.
Brentwood.
I've got my list here.
Yes, you'll have to remind me. Brentwood, there's a wonderful woman named Alexandria Marlowe. All of a sudden, this cross popped into her place in an apartment building. This one down in Brentwood, which is beautiful, is small, and you look from the inside out. And she says people will contact her. She'd be glad to show it.
And in Canoga Park?
Canoga Park, there's a wonderful woman named Minnie Fong. Minnie Fong, her cross is big. You look at a certain time, full moon or at certain times, and she sets up a schedule for you to see it if you like. And it goes pretty high. I don't know, I'd say 30-some feet. Beautiful.
Now, I can talk about one that I saw, and that's Joanne's.
Noriega. I bet you saw her.
Right, I did.
Where?
She was very hospitable. I went out to her house.
Montclair.
Called her, right.
Yeah. Well, she's had a bunch of healings out there. The most profound one that I heard of was a lady with breast cancer, but the other one was a lot of drug addicts go there to get well, and a lot of them get well. So it's a simple, she's honest, she's open, and she's loving, and she wants you to see the crosses.
Isn't that great? Yeah. And we've been talking about a lot of them that are in Southern California.
I missed one, Jackie Cochran down in Redondo Beach. I got on television with hers. I just happened, boom, and she got in a newspaper story. Maybe you'd like to see what she has too. I think hers are cut down. She cut them down into little pieces, so she gave some of them away so people could see them.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
We've been talking about how they were in Southern California, I was going to say.
Yes.
But they're not limited to Southern California, or Knoxville, or the United States. As I understand it, they're in Canada, they're Australia, right?
Right, all over the world. All over the world. There are signs all over the world.
The Philippines?
Philippines, heavy. Yeah.
Now, we saved the best for last. You told me there was like a triple miracle or the book miracle or something.
Yes.
That had to do with the cross of light.
Yeah, this is a most recent big manifestation of triple miracle, I call it. There was a little single parent mother with a little 5-year-old child she said, I've been all my life since I was born. She's about 37 when I met her. All my life I've been screaming to God, God, what's my mission here on earth? She says, I talk to God like he's my best friend, because he is, although I get a little upset with him once in a while because he doesn't always do what I want him to do. But she said, I still love him, and I know he cares about me. So I finally said to him, I was about the end of my line. I didn't know if I could support my child. I live in this little mobile home down in Malibu. And she said, I said to him one night, hey, I'm going to completely turn my life over to you, and you do anything you want with it, and I will stay with it till you tell me.
She said this to God.
She said to God,
okay.
And 2 weeks went by. All of a sudden, she woke up one morning, boom, and etched right across her forehead, she said, inside was, God made easy.
No kidding.
She said, boy, what a name for a book that would be if I could write a book.
Okay.
So she said, wonder what I'd say if I was going to write a book. So she talked to herself a little bit, and she laughed. Then she said, well, someday I may write a book. I'm going to lie down because I don't want to wake my son up. He gets up an hour and a half, and you know how 5-year-olds are, they move. So she laid down to go to sleep, and all of a sudden a voice said, hey, write it now. She said, I was so amazed. I reached right over, picked up a spiral notebook, and I put my hand down, and boom, we took off. I heard the voice very clearly. It had to come through me from somebody. I'm collaborating with God.
She's hearing this voice, or is this inside of her?
Inside her. She said, no, you can't call it a voice, but it came right through my mind.
Okay.
And I know I was being helped because I'm analytical, and I would stop and say, I wonder if you should use this word. This didn't let me stop. I just said, write this down. I wrote. In 1 hour, the voice stopped, and I knew it was finished. And then I read it, and I said, oh, either I am completely out of my mind, or I've written something that explains God to the simplest person in the world, which I'll include myself, she says, or anybody can understand what God's like. And the voice said to her, that's supposed to be a book, now you go get it published.
Wow.
She said,
that's pretty direct.
How do you publish a book if you don't know how? She said, so I got it, went down to a little Xerox place, got a few copies, sent it to 3 publishers. She said 3 weeks and 4 days after I sent it out, I was signing a contract because it was published. And then they told me, you send that out to prominent people who write great books and let them analyze it. And if they want to give you a quote on the outside of the book cover, we'll put it there.
For advertising.
So she says, I sent it. First place I sent it, she said, I wanted to send it to Mary Ann Williamson because she's the only woman in the world I know that completely talks about God to everybody and as a woman. I sent it to her and it came back. Said I worked on the address again, I sent it and it came back. So I'm going to try one more time. She sent it, and then she got a phone call. And the phone call was from Marianne Williamson's agent, who said, she's in Egypt. She's not here, but he says, I'm picking up her mail for her. I opened the mail, and the mail said to me, read this book. Something said, read this book. I read it. He said, I'm calling you. I have never in my life called a client, and I want to represent you and see if I can't sell this. She said, I just got a deal with the publisher. He said, well, let me go to Time Warner, because I think this could be a bestseller, and maybe they'll buy out your publisher. She said, well, try. If you, as long as my publisher's happy, I'll be happy. And that's exactly what happened. He went to Time Warner, but she didn't hear from him. For days, she didn't hear from him. And then she sat down in her bathroom and started crying. Her boy was playing television there. She said, I was hoping I could get a little quiet. And she said, God, I tell you, are you messing with my life again? She said, now give me some kind of sign if this is going to sell. Boom, she said. At that moment, a beautiful light flashed in her bathroom window, and she looked out, and rising up there about 30 feet was one of these crosses of light. And she said, I knew then it was going to sell. 4 days later, he called. He said, Time Warner took our deal. They're buying out your publisher, and they're giving you an advance of $50,000.
That can't be an
on
accident.
that 64-quarter-page book.
Wow.
Because they think it'll be a bestseller. The truth is, right now on the independent book list, it's only been out about 10 weeks. She is a bestseller. A little book called God Made Easy, A Group of Miracles.
Wow. That's really sad. That can't be a coincidence.
It's
too
can't
much.
imagine all those
Too many things falling
coincidence.
in line there.
I'll tell you where it's the most powerful. She's gotten already a call from a major producer of books for the 12-step programs, because it really speaks to people who are in the midst of changing from addictions, because they're looking for something they can call God as they understand it to speak to them, and this book helps them. And everybody else who reads it, it helps if they're aware of how simple and how wonderful life can be.
That's a great story. That's a great story. I want to remind our viewers that at the end of the show, we will put a phone number on the screen that you can call to receive information on the latest miracles.
Yes.
And get on a free mailing list about what's going on in the world right now and so on, right, buddy?
Right, and we'll also give you the information how you can contact these people if you'd like to see these crosses.
To go see the crosses of
Right.
light. Because they will let you go see them.
Yes, they're glad to have you come.
You know, there's the Bethlehem miracle that was on your list. The church, I've got it down here, the Church of the Nativity.
Yeah.
It's apparently over the grotto where they think Jesus was born.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, that's the one I get a kick out. I like all the funny ones. I worked the Red Skeleton Show for years, you know, as an actor, so anything's humor I love. And this one I like, because if you walk in that little church right now today, and you look long enough at that painting of this great teacher Jesus, he'll wink at you.
It's a painting on a pillar or something, right?
On a pillar,
It's a big,
yeah, old painting, but every so often it winks at you. Arafat was meeting upstairs, and the reporter reported on this, called down his bodyguard, said, you look at that, because he knew that Arafat's bodyguard wasn't Christian.
Yes.
And the bodyguard looked at that and said, what do you see? He said, well, I can tell you this, if you meditate on that a little bit, it'll wink at you. So the reporter was convinced.
Another sign back home is the Native Americans.
Oh.
We had 2 white buffalo calves born, right, buddy?
Yes, if anybody in the audience listening to us is Indian background, they will know that the signs the American Indians have been expecting are white buffalo calves when there's going to be a great change.
Right.
And 2 of them have happened recently, and they're just beautiful.
1994 and 1996, if I
think
remember
you got it right. Yeah, I forgot.
And the odds were, if I remember right, the odds were either 6 or 10 million to 1.
Yes.
Of a white buffalo calf.
And we got 2 of them.
And we got 2 of them within 2 years.
That's
pretty amazing.
Quite a coincidence.
Yes, it is. I don't think it's a coincidence.
I don't either.
Another one is the Inca Indians.
Oh, yes.
The shaman have seen enough signs, they say, to come out of their 500-year seclusion in the Andes, something like that. Yeah. And now they're going to come out and tell what they say it's time to tell. Yeah. So we have just a few minutes left, buddy.
We do.
And I was wondering if there's anything that we've talked about that we haven't covered that you would like our viewers to know.
Well, I would like everybody to know that if you have children, and if you're anxious about their future, and you will leave your minds open, because I'm not speaking religion, I'm speaking all-inclusive spirituality, that you will have plenty of hope for the future.
You know, buddy, I'm so glad that you could join me, and this has been a wonderful conversation. I want to remind the viewers to stay tuned, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
This has been a most enjoyable conversation.
Well, there it is. Miracle crosses of light. Modern miracles. We showed crosses of light a few weeks ago. Modern miracles, which included the miracle of the crosses of light. And I hope you enjoyed that, watching that as much as I did making it. You know, they said there'd be a telephone number and at the end of the video, but that number has changed, and so we didn't want to show it and lead people astray. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the miracles, and we're going to take calls with questions, or if any of you want to call in and share what you think is a miracle that you may have experienced. Boy, we'd love that. So let me tell you a couple things, what we expect of our audience, the few things that we'd like to ask of you, please. The first thing is, please don't believe anything that we say or that you see, because that would be blind belief. We're not asking you to believe what we say or change how you think or anything like that. We're just presenting the information that we have because we think it's important and we think it's true, obviously, in our heart of hearts. And so we wanted to just present it to you and let you take it for what it's worth. So please, we're not here to change your mind about anything or to force you to believe anything. Second thing is, we do ask that you try to keep an open mind. Keeping an open mind can be challenging, can be difficult, because we all grew up with our belief system and our point of view. So we're not asking you to change that. We're just asking you to crack the window open a little bit and let our information just kind of sit in your lap like a brick. You don't need to argue against it or argue for it. But we'd just like you to try to keep an open mind during the rest of this hour. And the third thing is, I want to give out the phone numbers you can call. If you have a miracle you want to share, or if you have questions about this topic, it's kind of an enticing topic. The media is a little bit afraid of it. They will publish some stuff in print and on television, but they usually try to go to the churches and get them to confirm that it's a miracle, but not all do that. So here are the numbers. You can give us a call at 888-627-6008, 888-627-6008, or directly at 323-744-4831. I'll say that again, 323-744-4831. We'd love it if you give us a call. You'll call into the radio station, and then they will take your call and they'll let me know that you're on the line, and then we can talk about it. Modern miracles. Well, what is a miracle? Well, let's talk about that a little bit. A miracle is generally considered to be an unexplained event, something that happened, usually that's good, that we don't understand how it could have happened. It's usually considered to be a gift from the universe. Many people say a gift from God. Buddy Piper in the video, wonderful man. I knew Buddy Piper for years. He passed away a few years ago, but what a delightful man. And he loved to check out these miracles. All across the United States he traveled to check out these miracles in person. He wanted to see them in person so he could talk about them more accurately. And what a fascinating guy to talk to. He said that there were higher beings, some people call angels. Well, there's a philosophy, an ancient philosophy called the ageless wisdom, which is something I have studied. Many people have studied it. The ageless wisdom teachings, and they're not a religion, they're a philosophy. And the last two presenters of the Ageless Wisdom have been a woman named Alice A. Bailey, who wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s. I'm not here to sell books, but in case you want to check them out. If you want to check out Alice Bailey, I would suggest that you start with one called Ponder on This, or one called Serving Humanity. And then the most recent revealer of the Ageless Wisdom is a man that I knew quite well, named Benjamin Creme, spelled C-R-E-M-E. Creme. Looks like cream, but it's Creme. He lived in London, passed away a few years ago in his 90s, but he traveled the world for over 40 years, giving out information that was about the miracles and about where the miracles come from, and trying to give hope to people about the future. And God knows we need that now, that's for sure. You know, Benjamin Creme and the Ageless Wisdom say that these angels are these great beings, great consciousness, great souls or spirits, are human beings who've gone through evolution ahead of us. They've lived all the experiences that you can have on planet Earth, and they have graduated. Since they've had all those experiences, they don't need to take a body, and they've graduated to the spiritual kingdom. And so they are the spiritual masters. They go by many names: the masters of wisdom, the lords of compassion, the spiritual hierarchy, because even in the spiritual universe, according to the Ageless Wisdom, again, don't believe this, you don't have to believe this, but even in the spiritual kingdom, beings are at different levels of evolution, just like here on the planet. We're all at different levels. That's what makes the world go round, right? So these great masters, they're called masters because they're masters over themselves, not because they're masters over us. They're masters over themselves. And so these great beings have created a lot of miracles, and the purpose behind the miracles is basically twofold. Number one, to give people hope. There have been miracles in every major religion, and there have been miracles that aren't religious at all that have happened that people say are miracles. Like we said in the video, you know, Life magazine published a big article about how the world is just broken out in miracles. And they're still going on ever since we made that video and beyond, right up to today, and including today. There are miracles that are happening and continuing to happen. That image of Mary on the Seminole Finance Building in Clearwater, Florida, that 4 stories tall image in color, it's still there. You can go down there and see it. They've set off part of the parking lot now. They fenced it off so that people can stand there and pray or meditate or whatever they want to do in front of that image of Mary. So these masters have created these wonderful miracles, and we just named a few in that video. Buddy just talked about a few of them, but there are many, many more, and they're worldwide. And the book he talked about, God Made Easy. Here's the book. You will love it if you, especially if you don't have a religion. This will not convert you or anything. This is written for people that have a religion or don't. And it's one of the simplest ways that God has been explained ever. And it's a book about hope, gives people hope. So again, I'm not here to sell books, but God Made Easy by Patrice Karst, K-A-R-S-T, is available very reasonably. And you can check it out. We have a call from Sabina in Canada. I'd be happy to take that call. Hi, Sabina.
Yeah, hi, Dick.
Hi, thank you for calling.
Hi, you're welcome. It's fun to hear about these miracles. I really do think there are lots of them happening all the time, and I have one to share it's kind of maybe not on a big splashy scale, but I do think it was a miracle.
Wonderful.
I love cats, and I had a cat who had kittens, and this was like about 7 years ago or so, and of the litter of kittens, 2 of them had their heads turned to the side and stuck there. Like they couldn't move their head. They couldn't turn their neck or anything. And one of them was looking like a real runt. And I thought, uh-oh, this kitten's not going to be able to eat because its head's stuck looking like 90 degrees to the side.
Oh.
So I called the vet and said, what do I do? And she said, I think you have to have them put down. So I made an appointment for that, and the day came, but my work schedule changed, so I couldn't go. So I canceled that. And a few days later, I picked up the phone to make a new appointment, and I heard a voice in my head, and it just said, wait. So I did. I put the phone down. I didn't make the appointment, and I waited. And a couple of days later, I noticed that both these kittens were moving their heads normally. Like whatever it was that had been wrong was no longer wrong. It was okay.
Oh.
Yeah, they've been fine ever since.
Oh, isn't that great? What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. I mean, how else do you explain that? Especially when you heard that voice that said, wait. You know, that's a pretty good hint that there's a miracle going on.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Sabina. Thank you. What a wonderful call. Yeah, you know, we said in the video, and I think it's true, most people have experienced what they think is a miracle in their lives. I mean, Sabina just shared one there from Edmonton, Canada, about the kittens that were healed, you know, miraculously healed, I would say. That certainly sounds like a miracle. These things are going on around the world and in our people's lives, and they don't all make the news like that one. You know, there's not going to be any headlines about that. It's not going to be on CNN, but it was probably a genuine miracle. Miracles, like I said, are events that happen that we don't have an explanation for. And the source usually given for these miracles is the spiritual universe. God, the masters like Jesus. Jesus is one of the great masters. Confucius, Krishna, Buddha, Joan of Arc is one of the great masters, and so on. So they're often named as the people that are sponsoring these miracles, causing them to happen. There have been a lot of miracles around Jesus, a lot of miracles around Mary, the mother of Jesus, who is now one of the great masters, and so on. So if you've had a miracle, please give us a call and share about it. I was saying that I think the purpose, according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, the purpose of these miracles are twofold. Number one, to give people hope, to let us know that we're not alone, to let us know that God hasn't forgotten about us, or the spiritual universe, or whatever you want to call God. I call it God. I grew up in a Christian religion, and so I learned to call our Creator God. But whatever you want to call it, the life force, whatever, is with us. They're reminders that we're not alone, that we haven't been forgotten about, that we are being cared for, and that there's hope. So I think that's the first one. The second thing about these miracles, the second reason that the Ageless Wisdom says there are all these miracles happening and continuing to happen, is because back around the time they started, there was a prophecy that a great teacher would come for the age of Aquarius. About every age, about every 2,000 years, history shows us that humanity has received one or more great teachers to help humanity with the next step forward, because we sometimes lose our way. And that's kind of where we're at now. We've kind of lost our way, and we need help to break through. We need help to save the world from pollution. It's dying. Our planet is dying. And the atmosphere around our planet is dying. People are still starving. You know, about every 8 or 9 minutes, every 8 or 9 seconds, as we speak today, seconds, somebody on the planet dies, mostly children, from starvation or a starvation-related illness. And that's in a world that now has a 12% surplus, if not, I think 12 to 14% surplus of food, but it's not getting distributed. And so it's sitting in these huge storage bins waiting for, especially in the Western world, waiting until we get the right price for it. And if we don't get the right price, it rots. Okay, we have another call. Christopher from Hermosa Beach. Hi, Christopher.
Hi. I have a question about how some of these miracles just continue for many, many years.
Sure.
When I visited a friend in San Francisco, and it was about sundown, we drove down a street, and I wouldn't have noticed them, but there were interesting patterns down, I believe it was 19th Avenue. And sometimes they're around us, and we just don't know about them. Could you comment on that?
What kind of patterns are you talking about, Christopher?
Like crosses and
Like light?
Yeah, light patterns, exactly, on the buildings
Yes.
and the windows.
Isn't
remember
that
something
something?
similar like that in Los Angeles as well many years ago?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, those are very similar to the crosses of light, but they're not crosses of light. They're light patterns that you don't see them through windows. Instead, they're, like you said, on the street, on the sides of buildings, and they're beautiful. And if people look around, they can't see a source for these lights, but they appear like in rows sometimes, like a checkerboard on the side of a building, only it's all lights. Those are happening around the world. And that just started, I want to say about 8 years ago that those started. Those are one of the newer miracles that I mean, a lot of people and experts have looked at these and they can't explain them. So yes, Christopher, I would say you've definitely seen one of the more recently created miracles. These patterns of light are all around the world. And I'm so glad that you called about those. You can't miss them. Man, they just stand out against a building or against the street, and they didn't used to be there, you know? I see we also have a call from Cielito from Seattle. Hi, Cielito.
Hi, Dick. I'm looking at light patterns right now.
Oh, yeah?
We're in Seattle. Yeah, South Seattle by Franklin High School. I was just jogging on the track, and 4:30 in the afternoon, when the sun is lower in the horizon, you can see these amazing, brilliant patterns of light all over, like in the morning and in the afternoon, this time of the year. They're all over the place. But I just wanted to share that because the caller mentioned it. But I like the story from Sabina about miracles.
Yes.
And we all love miracles, and I have to promote my girl Saint Rita, the saint of the impossible. This is a real person who was declared a saint from I believe the mid-19th century, Saint Rita of Cassia. And I grew up Catholic, but saints were really remote to me. I didn't understand them, so I didn't really pray to them. You know,
Yes.
my mother prayed the rosary and all of this, but it was just, I didn't really connect to it. And then recently she told me about Saint Rita. I can ask Saint Rita for things. Like, I don't ask for a car, but I ask for things to be made easier. For instance, the other week I had to meet with someone that everyone was saying was a difficult personality, was really resistant to doing what needed to be done. And I prayed to Saint Rita, the saint of the impossible, and I asked that my meeting with this person go smoothly. And amazingly, it did. I was able to get the information that I needed from this person who refused to give it before. And little things like that, I think it's important to ask our saints for help. You don't have to be Catholic, but you get evidence every day that things are possible, is, I guess, my point. And that evidence day after day that things can happen that seem impossible gives me a sense of hope to work for the things that seem impossible, like ending world hunger. You're talking about, you know, how the resources of the world are distributed in such a way that's out of balance. and it seems overwhelming to think that we could abolish all hunger.
Yes.
But if we experience little miracles every day,
Yep.
anything can happen. Anyway, thanks for thanks for having your show.
I'm so glad you called. What a wonderful story. Yes. And, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but thank you for calling, Cielito. Cielito talked about praying, asking. That's what happens when you ask a saint or one of the masters or God, or Jesus or, someone for help in a situation, or you want to thank them. That's the thing about prayer and meditation. Prayer is basically sending spiritual energy to the spiritual universe. And it's received by the spiritual universe. There's great, great evidence that prayers are answered. Now, they're not always answered in the way we want, and they're not always answered in the time frame we want. Those we can't do a lot about. But prayer is sending spiritual energy to the spiritual universe. Meditation is opening ourselves to receive spiritual energy from the spiritual universe. So one goes to the spiritual universe, one comes from the spiritual universe, and you see together they complete the cycle of communication with the spiritual universe. That's why they're said together so often, prayer and meditation, because together they complete the cycle of communication with the spiritual universe. Now, everybody doesn't have to pray, and certainly everybody doesn't have to meditate. A lot of people don't like to meditate, but you won't know till you try it. But prayer, there's just no reason not to reach out unless you're absolutely certain there's nothing out there in the spiritual universe, or maybe that it doesn't even exist. Okay, so that's a great call. Thank you so much, Cielito. Thank you for being with us during our show. Our time is up. Thank you so much for being with us. And we'll be back in 2 weeks again at 5 o'clock to show you another wonderful video that hopefully brings hope to you and in your life, and to answer questions and talk about it afterwards. So thank you again for watching and listening. This is Dick Larson from Planetary Makeover. See you soon.
Tune in right here in 2 weeks for the next Planetary Makeover show, as we watch and discuss another video by Francis Oman in light of the timely and non-denominational ageless wisdom teachings that will fill your spirit and inspire you with hope for the future, a world that works for everyone. So be prepared to call in and share your views and questions in another uplifting episode of Planetary Makeover.